Have you ever wondered why some leaders inspire lasting change while others, all they do is issue orders? True leadership transcends the power of authority. It's about influence, empathy, and vision. Today, we're going to unlock the real keys to impactful leadership. Forget the titles. You're about to become the leader people willingly follow. Are you ready? Hey everyone, John here. 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 Welcome to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. Hey everyone, John here. Welcome to today's episode. We're going to dive into why leadership isn't just about authority. Many times we get a title behind our name, we get our name on the door, we get the corner office, we finally maybe even get an office with a door on it, and we're excited to jump in. We're starting our business, we're scaling our business, maybe we're hiring a team, you're promoted, whatever it looks like in your situation. A lot of times, authority will only get you so far. In today's episode, we're going to talk about why it's important to get influence, empathy, and vision in some practical ways that you can create those so that way you don't have to lean on authority when times get tough. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the first one here, and we're going to go through the concepts, and then I'm going to give you some practical applications. Again, get your journals out. This is an active listening podcast. I want to give you all some practical applications that you can implement starting tomorrow with the teams that you're leading. So the first one that I want to discuss is influence over authority. And influence is by far the number one most powerful leadership characteristic that you can have. In fact, I think it's the foundation for leadership when we talk about how we lead people, because in the end, authority is only going to get you so far. In organizations that have a very high command and control, you're probably seeing a lot of turnover. You're probably seeing people, even the ones that are in the organization that have stayed there for a little bit, they've plateaued. There's really no incentive for them to go and get extra professional development. Organizations that lead with authority have a lot of stagnation. And a lot of times their organizational models are very steep, meaning you got a boss at the very top and a whole bunch of people that are underneath them, whether it's bosses of bosses or you got employees at the very bottom, and there's a disconnect. There's multiple layers between the employees of the organization and the senior leadership of the organization. And organizations can thrive with leading with authority, command and control when you have that steep model. But for those out there that have a very shallow organizational chart, command and control isn't going to get you too far. So you need to get influence. And influence for me, it's positive change. It's allowing people to understand that they have a part in what you are building. Nobody is going to work in your organization harder than you, and you shouldn't expect it. And a lot of times, that's what I think the command and control mentality is. Everybody works for me. This is my company. This is my organization. You work for me. That's not going to get you very far. People are going to quit. They're going to leave. They're going to find other places to work. They're going to find another leader who leads with influence and not authority. I can promise you that. So influence over authority, very important when we talk about making sure that it's not just a command and control environment. The second one, empathy and connection. So here, effective leadership requires high IQ. And high IQ to me is relationship management. We're going to give you some practical applications to that. Relationship management is probably number 2 on the list after influence when it comes to dealing with people, because every single day you are going to deal with a new people problem. You got the business, you got your processes, you have your systems, you have your inputs, you have your outputs. But when you boil all that down, what's at the crux of it? People. Unless you're the only one out there, you're just a team of one and you got to blame yourself, there are going to be mistakes made. So how are you going to handle those mistakes? You're going to need to have difficult conversations. How are you going to handle those difficult conversations? That is all about empathy, emotional intelligence, and relationship management. Very important here that you make sure that you have a connection with your team members, because if you don't have that connection, and something falls through the crack, now you have to revert back to the authority piece, because guess what? You can't go into it and have an honest conversation about what went wrong and how we can prevent that going forward if you do not establish a connection with your team and the people that you're leading. And then the last one that we'll talk about is visionary thinking. And with visionary thinking, this is where you got to have the idea that's big enough for everybody else's ideas, everybody else's values, everybody else's vision on the team to fit inside that. Because the minute that somebody feels like they've hit the ceiling, that they are being held down by your limiting vision, they will start to look for a new opportunity. They will move on. They will find somebody where they have a big enough vision that they can fit their vision in. So begin to craft this moonshot vision, as Tony Robbins puts it. I just love it. I love the idea of having this moonshot vision. Imagine you're trying to convince people that you got to go to the moon. How are you going to do that? That's exactly what kind of vision that you need. You need to craft a vision that makes the impossible possible, where people want to jump on that bandwagon, and no matter through thick or thin, they're going to stick with you. So again, this requires you to guide and set standards to move towards goals, to move others towards goals. This is the difference between leading others and leading yourself. You may have habits, you may have standards for yourself, but you can't expect those standards and push them on others. You have to allow people to have an equal part into creating those standards, and we'll talk about an exercise that I like to do with this, but they have to have a part in that. Because in the end, motivation is going to run out. You cannot be expected to walk in the door every day and hoorah everybody to the finish line. That's not going to work. It's going to tire you out. It's going to tire them out. They're going to expect it of you. And when you don't show up like that, guess what? It's going to be a bad day. So you have to set the standards. And in order to do that, you got to have them help you create those standards. And that way, everybody is pushing together. So if I'm not in hoorah mode today, somebody else may be in hoorah mode, but we all know the direction that we're going and the goal that we need to get with. So let's get into these practical applications. Again, get your journals out. Number one, remember we talked about influence over authority. So what are you going to have to do there? If you are trying to influence somebody, what's probably the most important thing that you can probably do? Lead through actions. You have to say what you're going to do and do what you say. Period. End of story. If you fray from setting the standards through your behaviors, it's all going to be talk. People will not be influenced and inspired by you. One of the most important things is going back to the fact that nobody's going to work harder than you for your company. If you own a small business, you are expected to be the hardest working person in that business, in that building, on that team. And if you don't show up every day and lead by example, lead by the behaviors that you exhibit day in and day out, people aren't going to follow you. True leadership, true influence is set by the behaviors and the standards that the leaders walk in the door. Great story here with just dress in a professional environment. I expect and I set the standard that you got to have nice, tidy clothes, collared shirts, and ties in a training environment. So if I expect the team to show up that way, and then I show up in t-shirts and jeans, is that going to be incongruent? Probably. So I'm going to even go above and beyond. I'm going to put on a suit, because that's the type of expectation. That's the bar that I want to set. It's not just a collared shirt and a tie environment. I'm going to wear a suit to that party. Does that make sense? I mean, for the most part, you as the leader, you always got to be level 10. I'm sorry. You got to show up, and if you're not ready, get ready. That's how you're going to influence people. You have to show up ready to help others and you have to do that through your behaviors. Very important there. So lead by example, demonstrate your expectations. Just don't say what your expectations are, put them on a chart. I want to take a short break to share some exciting news with you. I'm going to be hosting a live event. We're going to talk about the 5 strategies to building a high-performance team. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, you're looking to scale your business, you started out as a solopreneur, as 1 or 2 people, and now you have systems and processes in place, and you have to grow your business. We only have a certain amount of time as individuals. We can expand that time exponentially through teams. So it's important to understand how to build teams, how to sustain teams, how to train teams. And we're going to talk about that. If you've been in a situation where you've inherited a team, maybe you're a new leader to the organization, or maybe you're a new business owner, you're going to want to sign up and not miss it. We'll have a short presentation, and then I'll open it up for questions and answers. I'm excited for you to join us. Head on over to thejohnespinosa.com and get registered. Now back to the show. And then one of the other practical applications here when we talk about influence over authority is making sure that we actively listen and we have genuine conversations. Now, genuine conversations can look different for you. When I say genuine conversations, what they look like for me is when somebody walks in my office, 1, I make sure that I have time for that conversation. I'm not asking you to have your door open in conversations with everybody and anybody that walks in your office. There's no way that you can possibly do that. Task switching is very tough. If you are in the middle of something and somebody walks in your office, at that point, just let them know, hey, can you come back in 20, 30, an hour? I want to give you the full attention that you're going to need for this conversation. Right now, I'm in the middle of something. That's okay. It's okay to say that. In order for us to have genuine conversations, we have to both be engaged in that conversation. So if my mind is something else on some task or, I'm in the middle of something, there is no way that I'm going to be able to have a genuine conversation with that individual. So that's 1, where to start. The second part is actively listen. When I'm having a conversation with somebody, I remove barriers between me and that individual. So I push things out of the way. I got things on my desk. I close them. My phone goes up. My computer goes on lock or silent, whatever that looks like. And now I'm engaged. I get out behind any physical barriers, or I at least try. Sit around a table, sit shoulder to shoulder with people. There's a lot of physiological aspects to having a genuine conversation. Think about when you're walking with somebody, even if you have to go for a walk, that's a great time to have a conversation, and walk side by side. Have that open and genuine conversation. That's what genuine conversations look like to me. How you create those, you need to get to a point where you understand. That way you set that expectation. It goes back to that first part when we set the expectation, okay, I'm sitting down with an individual or I'm walking with an individual. Phones are silenced. I'm fully engaged in what they have to say. That's what a genuine conversation looks like. So listen actively, encourage this open dialogue, and by doing that, you're going to build trust. There's that trust word again. We've been talking about it all season long, specifically with building teams. You have to have trust as that strong foundation to everything else that you're going to do, and having genuine conversations will continue to ensure that trust is there. So for influence over authority, lead by example and have genuine conversations. Make sure you're listening actively. Those are the 2 applications that I want you to implement tomorrow, or one of them at least. Next one, empathy and connection. So what's a way that we can create empathy and connection? What's something that you can do? 1, check-ins. Check-ins have probably been the most impactful thing that I do in a week. I check in with every single one of my team members. I check in and make sure, and we have a very structured model. It's a 30-minute check-in. 10 minutes belongs to them. The middle 10 belongs to me, and the last 10 minutes is both of us looking forward. Now, does it have to happen 10, 10, 10? No. They can go if they don't have anything Then I go. If I don't have anything, then we move on and look forward. What's coming up? What are the things that are going to impact you? Are you going to be out of the office? Is there a big project, that you need support on? Any roadblocks that I can clear for them? Those are the things that those check-ins allow us to do. So it builds that connection. Going back to, you need to empathize with those individuals. If something in their personal lives aren't quite going so wrong, that's an opportunity for them to bring that to the table. Again, very important way for us to connect with our team members. And then empathy exercises. This is the second one here. One thing that I like to do is if somebody is having a challenge, a problem, a situation, they're late, maybe they're a whole bunch of sick leave they're turning in, or maybe they're just not performing well. This is an exercise that I run just mentally, and I'll journal this out. I'm like, okay, put myself in their shoes. My mom always told me, walk 1,000 miles in somebody else's shoes before you begin to judge them. Why? Because you just never know what's going on. And this is very important because a lot of times your team, it's hard for them to bring it up. It's hard for people to bring up their weaknesses. It's hard for people to bring up their struggles. So going back to listening and creating that foundation for making sure that you have that genuine connection with somebody, this is the time that they're going to bring that up. This is the time when you walk 100 miles, you put yourself into somebody else's shoes. This is going to go a long, long way for them as a team member to bring a challenge that they're going through, to bring a personal problem or bring a conflict that they're having in the office that you may not see. Many times I find that people are struggling internally. They're pushing it down. They're trying to get past it, and it's something that is organizationally part of a system or part of a process that easily can be changed, but they're not going to bring it to us because they don't want to be the ones to cry wolf. They don't want to be the ones to shake the boat. That's just not the case. In order for us to have healthy organizations and lead healthy teams, we need to make sure that everybody understands they can bring us issues as leaders and we can talk through them. It doesn't mean that we're always going to change them, or it doesn't mean that we're always going to be on their side, but what it means is we're willing to listen, and that's the first step. So when we talk about empathy and connection, those two takeaways, scheduled check-ins, check on their professional and personal well-being, and those empathy exercises, great way to build that empathy and either create or sustain that connection. So let's talk about the last piece, visionary thinking. And with this, I work with teams all the time. You wouldn't believe how many teams, how many organizations, how many small businesses from 5 to 500 do not have a vision statement. It just really is a lack of, I think, sitting down and understanding where the organization is going. Senior leadership needs to craft the vision statement. However, also get the input. Depending on your first team, if you have managers between yourself and the organization, the employees that are doing the work, get them involved. If you don't, if you're a very shallow organization, get the employees involved. It's very important that people help create the vision. Now, as a leader, you got to have that moonshot vision, but how do you know if your vision's big enough? Because a lot of times, I don't know about you, but I limit my vision. I don't think big enough all the time. Sometimes I think way big and people are like having to rein me in. But for the most part, I limit my vision. And it's because I just don't know what's out there. I don't know what people want because I haven't talked to them. But the scheduled check-ins help me. Program reviews help me. And I do this on an annual basis. I used to create a vision and it lasts for 4 to 5 years. Things are changing so fast that we need to revisit our goals and our visions daily, if not quarterly, to ensure that we're on the right track, to make sure that they're big enough. So these vision statements, make sure that they align with the values of the organization and align with your team. And then you got to show up. And then you got to be consistent because that's how we're going to reinforce those vision statements. Another really good practical application here is inclusive planning. So people will support what they help create, period. So get them on board early. Check in with them often. and then make sure that we're in alignment. Create alignment. When we leave the meeting, when we leave, a program review, everybody doesn't have to agree on every single decision that was made, but we all have to support it. And if you can't support it, we got to talk about it. The very last question I ask before a decision is made, before we write it down and we move forward or we action it out is, does everybody support this decision? And if you can't support it, I need to know now. Very, very important to have that discussion. It allows us to clear the air. Somebody may just have, it conflicts with their values. And we need to have that conversation before we leave that meeting, we leave that room, we leave that event, and now people start to talk. It starts to fester. Delays begin to happen. All of those things that we want to prevent can come out in that conversation, but you as the leader have to ask the question. So people will support what they create. Vision statements, great exercise. Put them on your wall. Talk about them in the meetings. Explain them. Operationalize them. Great way for people to rally together. Set that expectation. Goes beyond motivation. Motivation only lasts about 13 days. So what are you going to do? You're going to try to motivate people every day? Like I said earlier, you're going to get exhausted. You're going to burn out. Vision statements set the expectation. Give a clear direction where everybody is moving to. And then make sure that everybody has buy-in to that vision before you go out and plaster it all over the walls or talk about it. So those practical applications are excellent ways for you to gain influence, lead with empathy, and inspire with vision rather than authority. True leadership really does come down to your ability to build trust and influence others. I know that you wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you didn't believe that as well. I hope these practical applications helped. Go implement them tomorrow. Don't wait. Figure out what day one is, and then be consistent and don't miss 2 days in a row. I believe in you. Go be great. Talk to you later. Bye. If you like what you're hearing, do us a favor. Click on that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up or leave a comment. That lets us know that what we are putting out benefits you. If you want additional information or resources or learn how to work with me, head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, because when we become better versions of ourselves, it helps us get others to where they're going. Go be great. Talk to everyone later.